Good morning, children. We are once again back in the same chapter, metals and non-metals. Under this C, today's topic we are going to discuss about metal oxides. Today's topic that we are going to discuss is about metal oxide. Now the question is, what is metal oxides? Metal oxides are the oxides of metals and oxygen. So we can say that the definition of metal oxide is that it is a binary compound made up of metal and oxygen only. So the basic definition of a metal oxide is that metal oxide is a binary compound which is made up of a metal and oxygen only. Metal oxides are generally basic in nature. That is, the aqueous solution of metal oxide turns the color of red litmus to blue. As they are basic or alkaline in nature, they change the color of red litmus to blue. So the reaction of metal oxide with water, we get bases. On reacting metal oxide with water, we get corresponding bases. So just remember, whenever a metal oxide is made to react with water, it gives us actually bases. Okay. Now most of the metal oxides are insoluble in water. Just remember, most of the metal oxides are insoluble in water. Alkali metal oxides are soluble in water. Most of the metal oxides are insoluble, but alkali metal oxide, they are actually soluble in water. So just remember, alkali metal oxide is always soluble in water. Okay, so that is the property they have told you, that alkali metal oxides are mostly soluble in water. Alkali metal oxides give a strong base when dissolved in water. When these alkali metal oxides are dissolved in water, they actually give you a type of strong base. Okay, so for example, NaO, Na2O, K2O, whenever they are dissolved in water, they give us NaOH and KOH. After that, we are going to discuss the reaction of sodium oxide with water. What is the reaction of sodium oxide with water? Now, sodium oxide gives sodium hydroxide when they react with water. So just remember, sodium oxide, when it reacts with water, it gives sodium hydroxide. The reaction of potassium oxide with water, when potassium oxide gives potassium hydroxide when reacts with water. Potassium oxide gives potassium hydroxide when they react with water. So the reaction of zinc oxide and aluminium oxide and zinc oxide are insoluble in water. And you should also remember that aluminium oxide is amphoteric in nature. What is the meaning of amphoteric? The meaning of amphoteric means that it actually shows both acidic as well as basic behavior. So among the metal oxides, we know that sodium oxide, potassium oxide, they are strongly basic. Magnesium is also basic, but that is weakly. Zinc oxide is also basic, that is weakly. But remember, aluminium oxide and zinc oxide, both of them are amphoteric in nature. What is the meaning of amphoteric? The meaning of amphoteric is that they show both the properties of acids as well as bases. They show the properties of both acids as well as bases. These are some of the characteristics of metal oxides. After that, you see here they have mentioned you that amphoteric substances show both acidic as well as basic character. So it reacts with base like acid, and that reacts with a acid as well as that of a base, because it shows both acidic as well as basic behavior. After the next property, zinc oxide. Zinc oxide reacts with sodium hydroxide. It behaves like an acid in the reaction. So sodium zincate and water is formed. So just remember, when zinc oxide is made to react with sodium hydroxide, it actually forms sodium zincate and water is formed. Now zinc oxide behaves like a base when they react with the acid. Zinc oxide behaves like a base when they react with acid. Zinc oxide gives zinc chloride and water on reaction with hydrochloric acid. So when it is made to react with hydrochloric acid, it forms zinc chloride as well as water. In a similar way, aluminium oxide behaves like a base when they react with the acid. In a similar way, aluminium oxide behaves like a base when it reacts with sodium. So here we have this reaction. It behaves like an acid when it reacts with a base. It behaves like an acid when it reacts with a base. So aluminum oxide also gives sodium aluminate when it is made to react with sodium hydroxide. So just remember, aluminum oxide forms sodium aluminate when it is made to react with sodium hydroxide. So these type of reactions are shown by aluminium as well as zinc. Okay, so zinc and aluminium, they show similar type of reaction. So aluminium oxide gives aluminium chloride along with water when it is made to react with hydrochloric acid. When they are made to react with hydrochloric acid, they will form the corresponding salt as well as water. Okay, these are some of the reactions we encounter. After that, see, the next part of the chapter we are going to discuss is the reactivity series of metals. See, next part of the chapter we are going to discuss is the reactivity series of metals. Next part of the chapter we are going to discuss is the reactivity series of metals. Now the question comes, what is called the reactivity series of metals? What is called the reactivity series of metals? It has another name also. It is also called as metal reactivity series or electrochemical series. So we can say the order of intensity or reactivity of the metal is known as reactivity series. The order of intensity or the reactivity of metal, the order of intensity or the reactivity of the metal is known as reactivity series. The order of intensity or the reactivity of the metal is known as reactivity series. So it is the order in which it is been shown. So the reactivity of metals decreases on moving from bottom to the given reactivity series. So what we see, that the reactivity of the metals, they decrease on moving from top to the bottom in a given reactivity series. So we are arranging the common metals. See, in a reactivity series we are arranging the common metals in a table according to their reactivity, according to their strength. This strength is called the reactivity series of metals. So just remember, depending on the activity of a metal, the electrochemical series of reaction, the intensity by which these metals they react, we are dividing these metals into a series, and that series is called the reactivity series of the metals. In the reactivity series of metals, elements are arranged based on their activity. In the activity series, copper, gold and silver are at the bottom and hence are reacting. So just remember, copper, silver and gold, they are at the bottom of the series. So we can say they are the least reactive metals, that is they are unable to react much, so they are called the least reactive metals, or they are the metals which actually show the activity. I should say they just do not react to the normal reagents. In the activity series, copper, gold and silver at the bottom, and hence they are used to make, that is called jewelry. Okay, these metals are also known as noble metals. See, these metals are known as noble metals. What is the meaning of noble metals? They are called as noble metals because they do not react with the normal reagents. See, noble gases, we know that inert gases or rare gases, they are called as noble gases, but here we are discussing about noble metal. So what is a noble metal? A noble metal is a metal like gold and platinum which does not react with the normal reagents. Potassium is at the top of the series and hence they are the most reactive. Potassium is at the top of the series and they are the most reactive metals. Okay, after that, when we arrange the metal in the series, we have this specific mode of arrangement, that is potassium is at the top, then sodium, then calcium, then magnesium, then aluminium, zinc, ferrum, lead and copper. In this way we are arranging the metal. So here you can see that is the most reactive metal is copper, followed by sodium, after that calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, ferrum, lead. Just before copper, here we have actually hydrogen. After copper we have silver, gold and platinum. So just remember, before copper here we have hydrogen, and after copper we have silver, gold and platinum. So just you should know this series that the least reactive is platinum and gold. Now after that we have the next part, that is the reaction of metals with solution of other metal salts. The reaction of metals with the solution of other metal salt is the displacement reaction. In this series, there we have already studied in chapter 1 the displacement series. In that displacement series, we have studied that suppose I have metal salt A that is made to react with salt of metal B. Now we get salt of metal A plus salt of metal B. Why is it so? That actually proves that metal A is stronger than metal B. That actually proves that metal A is stronger than that of metal B. That's why metal A is able to replace metal B. Metal A is able to replace this metal B. Okay, metal A is able to replace this metal B, and that's why we have this salt of metal A plus salt of metal B. Example C, iron displaces copper from copper sulfate solution. Iron displaces copper from the copper sulfate solution. Now see, suppose we have a copper sulfate solution. The color of the copper sulfate solution is just the color is blue. When you put a piece of iron, iron being much more reactive displaces the sulfate from the copper, and hence it forms the color of solution turns to green. Hence the color of the solution turns to green. In this way I can say that one metal is replacing the other. Similarly, you can see aluminium metal. Aluminium and zinc displaces copper from solution of copper sulfate. Why? Because aluminium and zinc, as you could see, aluminium zinc is much more stronger than copper, so it can displace copper from a solution of its salt. Okay, in the above examples, iron, aluminium and zinc are much more reactive than copper. So what we could see from this series, that iron is located over here, zinc is located over here, and aluminium is located over here. So they are always much stronger than copper. As a result, they can displace this copper from their corresponding salt solution. As a result, we can say that they are much more reactive. Okay, this is why they displace copper from its salt solution. When copper is dipped in a solution of silver nitrate, it displaces and forms copper nitrate. So suppose I had silver nitrate. What we know that silver is behind copper. In a silver nitrate solution, I drop a piece of copper. Copper being much more reactive. What will copper do? Copper will displace it. Okay, copper will displace it, and it will form copper nitrate. See, the product formed would be copper nitrate. Why? Because copper is before silver, or in a way I can say silver is after copper. Next we have metals and non-metals. Metals and non-metals. In this reaction, copper is much more reactive, hence the displacement takes place. After that, children, see, we have next part of the chapter. See, here they have again told you that silver metal does not react with copper sulfate. See, if I reverse the reaction, that is, I have a copper sulfate solution, in that I put a piece of silver. What do I notice? That the silver metal does not react with copper. Why it does not react with copper? Because what is happening? This silver, being very less strong than copper, is unable to displace from the copper solution, because the reactivity than copper and not able to displace copper from its salt solution. Similarly, gold is dipped in the solution of copper nitrate. Suppose I take copper nitrate solution, in that I put a gold place. What will happen? Gold will not react. Why? Because gold is much more inert than copper, and hence this piece of gold will remain intact in a solution of gold. Okay, it will just remain intact in this solution of gold. As we know that gold is much less reactive than that of copper. In a similar way, no reaction takes place when copper is dipped in aluminium nitrate. Why? Because what we know that aluminium is much more reactive. If we put copper will be unable to displace it. As copper will be unable to displace it, hence no reaction will take place, or I can say copper is much less reactive than that of aluminium. Did you understand this part of the chapter, children? See, after that we are going to discuss about non-metals. Now the question is, what are non-metals? Non-metals are those elements which are very poor conductor of heat and electricity. They are non-lustrous, non-sonorous, as well as they are non-lustrous, non-sonorous, as well as they are not ductile or malleable. So the physical properties of non-metals are as follows, that is, these non-metals are those class of elements which are non-lustrous, non-sonorous, non-conductor of electricity, they are non-malleable, they are non-ductile. Okay, non-metals are the elements that do not conduct electricity, neither they are malleable nor are they ductile. See, examples of non-metals comes over here is carbon. Carbon is one example non-metal whose symbol is C. Another non-metal is sulfur whose symbol is S. Another non-metal is phosphorus whose symbol is P. Another non-metal is silicon whose symbol is Si. Another non-metal is hydrogen whose symbol is H and oxygen O, nitrogen N and chlorine is Cl. Then we have bromine whose symbol is Br, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, these are all inert gases. Okay, these are all actually examples of inert gases. Non-metals are the elements which form negative ions. They are electronegative in nature, that is, they have negative charge because they have the tendency to gain electrons. They are negatively charged because they have the tendency to gain electrons. Okay, non-metals are also known as electronegative elements. Non-metals are known as electronegative elements because they have the tendency just to gain electron. So just remember, non-metals generally have 5, 6 or 7 electrons in their outermost shell. As a result, they are able to accept electrons and hence they form electronegative ions, or they form negative ions, and that's why they are called as electronegative elements. After that, children, we are going to discuss the physical properties of non-metals. After that, we are going to discuss physical properties of non-metals. Under physical properties of non-metals, the first property that we are going to discuss is hardness. So what we know that metals were hard, but non-metals have the opposite property, that is, non-metals are not at all hard, rather they are generally soft. An exception is there, that is, the hardest naturally occurring metal is known as diamond. See, diamond is not a metal, it's a non-metal, but this is one of the exceptions. So generally non-metals are soft, hence these non-metals have very less tensile strength. When they are heat, they actually break, and we can say non-metals are generally, the nature is called as brittle. After that state, non-metals may be solid, liquid or gas. A solid non-metal is sulfur, a liquid non-metal is bromine, and a gaseous non-metal is the oxygen, nitrogen, all these gases. Next property is called as luster. What we know, non-metals have very dull appearance. They are in no way shiny or attractive. You might have seen coal. Coal is a non-metal. Is it shiny? But inside the coal we see another non-metal, that is diamond, which is the one of the shiniest element. Okay, so non-metals have a dull appearance. Diamond and iodine are the exception, although they are non-metal, but still they are shiny. Next is sonority. See, non-metals are not sonorous, that is, they do not produce any type of gonging sound when they are hit. After the next property is conduction. Non-metals are generally bad conductors of heat and electricity. Non-metals are generally bad conductors of heat and electricity. Exception is there. One of the allotrope of carbon is called as graphite, and that is able to conduct electric current. One of the allotrope of carbon is graphite, that is able to conduct electric current. After that, malleability and ductility. Non-metals are non-malleable and non-ductile, that is, they do not, or they cannot be changed into fine sheets, or they cannot be changed into fine, I should say, type of threads, and hence they are just been brittle. After that, melting and boiling point. Non-metals have generally low melting and boiling points. Non-metals have very low melting and boiling point. Most of the non-metals have very low density. Most of the non-metals have very low density. Next is color. Non-metals are never colorful, or they don't have a type of shine. So they have a characteristic color. See, carbon and graphite is black in color. Diamond is shining. The diamond is a non-metal which shows opposite characteristics non-metal. It is actually extremely shiny. And another non-metal is called as graphite, whose color is black, and which is also a very good conductor of electricity. So these are some of the characteristics of non-metals that we encounter. Okay, children, that was all for the day. Thank you.